All right. Hello, y'all. Happy Wednesday. I know Brittany's like, hello. I always say, hey, y'all. Hey, y'all. We're back. Okay. It's a crazy week. You know, it is the week of Battle of the Brushes. So we are in the last minute of a whole lot happening in the studio today. But we are very excited to welcome another of our artists who agreed to sit down and talk with us today. So today we have Courtney with Courtney and the Canvas. Thank you, Courtney, for coming in and talking to us today.
Thanks so much for having me and for putting on this event. I'm so excited to bring something like this to Wetumpka.
It's a nice little idea. My husband came up with this crazy idea, and we are rolling with it, and we're having a good time. Hopefully, Saturday will be a lot of fun.
Saturday's gonna be so much fun.
So here we go. We're just going to talk about, and if you've listened to one of these, we've done two of these before. It's very similar. We're just going to kind of pick a little bit of Courtney's brain. Tell me a little bit about, when did you first realize you had artistic talent?
So I feel like I've always been doing something, and I come from a long line of creators, and that takes on lots of different forms. So my grandmother would crochet, and my grandfather played the harmonica, and my dad wrote poetry, and so there's been like all of this lineage. And when it came to me, I'm a painter. And so I've been painting for probably 30 or plus years at this point, and my creative streak has waxed and waned throughout my career, and maybe we can talk about that a little bit.
Okay. Okay. So describe the moment when you knew painting wasn't just something you enjoyed, but something you needed to do.
Wow. So art has been with me at some really critical points in my life where I have gone through stressful life events, whether those were good stresses or bad stresses. And there have been times where having that opportunity to just kind of go and spend time with my paint really helped me. And over the last couple of years, in 2019, I came back to the canvas with intention because of what I do in my full-time job. It was really a need for me to start this mindfulness-based art practice. And coming back to it really cemented, this is something I have to make time for. This is something I need to do.
Excellent. Excellent. So have you experienced a creative, I always mess up when I see this word. Jason did these questions for me, this flow state where time seems to disappear when you're painting?
Absolutely. So interesting thing about flow, I think, is it was first really studied in runners. And so there's this idea of the runner's high and the endorphins that we get, or some people get. But what we found is it goes over into other domains of life. And so absolutely, it's something where you know when you feel it that everything just kind of slows down and it's just you and the work. We also all know that feeling when you're not in a flow state, and some days it's more difficult, and it is more of a intentional practice that requires practice.
Excellent. What emotional needs does painting fulfill for you?
All of them, all of them. And so I mentioned, that I have a mindfulness practice that I use as part of my art, and I have always been a painter, always been drawn towards acrylics. And a couple of years ago, I discovered fluid art. And so that is an opportunity to kind of let go of all the control that comes up in other areas of life. And you just stay with yourself and the canvas, and you may have an idea of where it's supposed to go or where you want it to go. And yet it goes where it wants to go. And so it helps to process that frustration. It helps to sit with the uncertainty. And sometimes it brings on some joy too. And sometimes we wait for it to dry and then we inflict the joy on it. And so there's a lot of opportunity there to process.
I think that's what's going to be the most fun Saturday is we've announced 5 themes that you can paint Saturday, that you might be chosen to paint Saturday. And you might have your mindset in one of those 5. But that may not be the one that gets chosen, and you don't know.
So which one's yours?
What's your favorite?
Oh, I have something brainstormed for all of them, and then I'm kind of just going to see when we get there how it goes. I'm trying not to choose before we get there because I don't have that choice.
Correct, and it will literally be chosen out of a hat. We are going to have all 5, and Brittany's going to provide us a hat for it, and we are going to pull out of the hat what theme y'all will paint Saturday. So I think that's going to bring a lot of excitement to it.
We're both a little jealous because we can't join in on the painting
Because you're running the event.
because we're running the event. It wouldn't be right. So we're both like, oh, I wish we could do this, which is fun too, because you get
Nope.
no.
Nope.
Not at the event, but you can always come back to it,
Sure,
right? Some of the
sure.
themes that are in there, if they don't get chosen, I've got ideas.
So when we
they'll
chose
probably
them,
happen later.
we
Plan on
did
it.
talk
I plan on
about
doing that.
all the different ideas, and when we talked about some of them, all three of us had a totally different idea of what that
Yes.
theme looked like.
And those are the ones we were most wanted to pick. Was the ones
And-
where we all had different ideas for it.
It'll be interesting how the judges look at those, because we also don't know the judges' perspectives to those ideas, and we'll find out when they judge on them.
Absolutely.
So, what made you decide to enter the Battle of the Brushes?
We talked about this a little bit before we went live. This is something that I saw and I thought, oh, I want to do that. And oh, no, I don't want to do that. I had some of those back and forth conflicting emotions because it sounded really exciting. And it also sounded like a challenge. And so I like to challenge myself. I like to take on new and different things. And, you kind of sit with the anxiety or the distress, and it fades out over time. And there's also, we were talking about flow state, but there's also this concept called eustress, EUSTRESS. And so it's kind of that right levels of stress. If we don't have enough, we tend not to do much. If we have too much, we can't perform. But if we kind of hit that middle state, then it really brings out some of our best performance. So I'm hoping to see that on Saturday.
Oh, that sounds exciting. So, how do you feel about creating under pressure with an audience watching?
I was thinking about like how have I ever painted with an audience? And other than family, I don't think so, because it really is something, my brand is Courtney and a canvas. It is me and the canvas intentionally, because that's usually my time. So it'll be an interesting opportunity, and I think it'll add something different. So we'll see. I'm interested to see what happens next.
So, what does putting your work forward for judgment feel like emotionally?
It's exciting. There's, I've done a couple of shows. I've had some of my work exhibited across the years. It's been judged before, and I think it's really interesting to see what people gravitate towards. Because just because somebody doesn't pick your work, that doesn't mean it doesn't have merit or value.
Absolutely.
But people have different things that they're drawn to day to day, and so it's really interesting to see that. And I like that you guys are also going to have kind of a viewer's choice, because I think that brings in a unique component as well.
So, how do you hope to grow or gain from this competitive experience?
Yeah. Well, I think, it's always an opportunity to share your work with somebody, and it's always going to create some kind of reaction, whether somebody likes it or they don't like it, or they see something different than you ever intended. And so that's something that I really am interested in, as a personal and professional level. Like, what do people get out of those different experiences, and how can it add to quality of life? Because I think the arts are so important. They bring different things than all the other domains that are also important.
So, how are you preparing yourself emotionally for this competition?
Well, I'm intending to do some meditation in the time up to that event. I plan to take some breaks in it to do some meditation. And then, the actual painting is part of that. Some of the sketching that'll happen before will probably be a part of my preparation as well.
Excellent. So, let's talk more about you. We'll get away from the competition a little bit. How has art impacted your life beyond the canvas?
Sorry about that.
Art has impacted my life in a lot of different ways, and not just painting, but being able to take on and experience and notice things in everyday life, right? So beauty and art comes in a lot of different forms. Some of my garden is starting to come up, and that's art, right? That is something that adds to my quality of life. And so just being able to stop and notice every day kind of where we can find the beauty or the ugly beauty in different parts of life is a really important part of keeping things interesting for me, keeping me engaged, and keeping me moving through, especially in times of stress.
So, what do you hope viewers take away from experiencing work? And we will we will have viewers on site and live. We're hoping to stream it, so you're gonna have viewers coming in from different places.
I think it's an opportunity to talk to people, and I'm sure that some people will already have an interest in art. There'll be people that would show up for gallery shows or other events, and I think some people that'll come into this, and I hope some people that'll come into this are novice at that. They're not used to it, and so being able to talk about the process and that art is for everyone, right? Lots of people talk about natural talent, and sometimes that's there, and sometimes that's not. It can be a skill that we can develop, and art can be for everybody.
Absolutely. What does being part of the Wetumpka art community mean to you?
I think there's been such attention on this area over the last couple of years, but there's been such a nice community where it still is a small place. It still is a place where you get to know people, and it felt supported by the community, not in competition with the community. So that's been a really nice part of being part of this smaller group.
How do you see art bringing people together, especially in the small communities like ours?
I think there's a lot of different ways, like I mentioned, that we can look at and appreciate art. And so in small communities, knowing where those places are, seeing so many of those businesses pop up and being able to support small businesses as well as more institutions, that creates this gathering spaces. And I think we sometimes talk about third places, that we have home and we have school or work, but third places are really important. It's a place for the community to gather. It's a place for people to come together and experience both their similarities and differences, and building those communities and building those connections between people helps us as a society.
Very nice. So if someone is watching this, is hesitant about exploring their own creativity, what would you say to encourage them?
Just do it. Start, right? Most everybody can find somewhere in their space. You've got a pen, you've got a piece of paper, you've got an opportunity to sit down and doodle and draw and experiment. And then there are so many resources out there online in the community to take classes like Sunshine and Pixie Dust. That it's something that can be for everyone. And so just starting is the biggest step.
What else would you like to share with us about you, about anything related to the competition, art? It's your time.
I would just say, if you're somebody who is interested or not, still show up, come check it out, see what people are doing. There's a lot of talent in the area and the community. We're pulling people in from outside the community, seeing that list of artists and the rosters that are coming in. There'll be something for everybody. There'll be lots of different things to explore. And so I think it's going to be a really good opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you for being here and talking with us today. So remember, the event is Saturday. We are just a few days away. We will start with a welcome at 12:45. We will, during that time, do a run through with the artists. We will draw the topic. 1 o'clock, they will start painting. From 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, they will paint. During that time, you can visit, talk with the artists as much as they will allow you to talk with them while they're painting. But you can walk through. We have it set up that you'll be able to walk through the areas where they're painting. 5 o'clock, they will stop painting and move it to the judges area. So you can still visit with them while they clean up their space. We will have food available there. We have raising money for some great causes, the food pantries and the humane shelters. So join us Saturday. We'd love to have you there, downtown Wetumpka at the Civic Center.
It's free.
And it's free to attend, but we will have food and art for sale. A lot of the artists are bringing some of their own art for you to check out and purchase if you're interested. It's a great opportunity for them and for the spectators. So thanks for stopping by. Y'all have a great day. Bye, y'all.
Thanks.
Bye. Bye.